lively coming out. They be wondering what we talking about.
Salute, man. What's happening? This is Nocturnal Boxing, or Boxing Nocturnal. Yo, it's 12 o'clock at night when this drop, so I know most of y'all sleep, but this is Nocturnal, and this is when I grind. I'm sitting here thinking, man, we all heard the news. Errol Spence and your Danish Ugas, is agreed upon. So I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed, but I'm not gonna hold my breath. We'll see if that fight actually happens. But I'm looking at Keith Thurman against Marios Barrios, and I'm trying to figure out, man, I'm scratching my head, like, how is this a pay-per-view fight? And I'm looking at the card, and it's just not making sense to me. But it is what it is. I think that Keith Thurman and Marios Barrios, even though I don't even think that, that might turn out to be a decent little fight. I don't know how. Mario Barrios coming off a knockout from Tank Davis, and Keith Thurman been on a long layoff, a hiatus, and he's coming off of a loss against Manny Pacquiao. They should be fighting on the undercard of Errol Spence and Jordanis Ugas. But it is what it is. We'll see how that. We've already had the last few months jam-packed with, pay-per-view fights. So I just don't see this fight really being a pay-per-view fight. Keith Thurman versus Mario Barrios, it should be a co-main. It should be like, on the undercards. You dig? But I'm looking at Errol Spence versus Jordanis Ugas, and I think that's the right fight. I think it's a good fight. We all know how the shit played out with Manny Pacquiao. Everybody wanted a piece. Everybody wanted to fight Manny Pacquiao. After he beat Keith Thurman, you still had Sean Porter, Terrence Bud Crawford, and Errol Spence trying to get that Manny Pacquiao fight, and it all worked out in the favor of Jordanis Ugas, who a lot of people thought was robbed when he fought against Sean Porter. So Jordanis Ugas goes in and upsets the apple cart to a certain extent. Manny Pacquiao was older and he had been out of the ring for a time. It was a nice competitive fight, and Jordanis Ugas came out on top. Now, he's about to fight Errol Spence. Everybody wanted to see Errol Spence versus Terrence Bud Crawford. And to me, that ship sailed. But it might come back around at the end of 2022. You know what I'm saying? And the way I see that happening is Errol Spence, I know some people don't want to hear he needs a tune-up, and he says he doesn't need a tune-up, and Jordanis Ugas is no tune-up. And he also said, I'll make your favorite fighter my tune-up. And he proved that when he came out of the car wreck and then fought Danny Garcia. But at the same time, to me, coming back from a car wreck might be a little different rehab than coming back from a retina injury. So I don't know his form. I don't know what he's going to bring to the table. But at the end of the day, if Errol Spence comes correct with his training, strength and conditioning, and he's working on his tools, sharpening and getting everything prepared, I think he can beat Jordanis Ugas. But don't get it twisted. I think Jordanis Ugas definitely is a dangerous fight, and Jordanis Ugas could beat Errol Spence. I'm interested to see how that plays out. Like I said, this is a decent fight. Meanwhile, Terrence Bud Crawford coming off of a great victory where he had Kenny Porter throw in the towel in the 10th round? The 10th round stoppage. of Sean Porter, Terrence Bud Crawford has the options of fighting Virgil Ortiz or fighting Josh Taylor. And I can see that going either which way. I think both of those are dangerous fights. Both of those are great fights. And he has advantages. Of course, he is Terrence Bud Crawford. He basically right now is the most complete fighter in the welterweight division until we see otherwise from Errol Spence. But Virgil Ortiz is young, undefeated, on a knockout streak, beat Maurice Hooker, beat Agitas Kavalauskas in pretty good fashion. And then you got Josh Taylor. The Tartan Tornado. He's a monster coming off of a, undisputed against Jose Ramirez. And we all remember him beating Regis Prograis. And, Regis Prograis is one of my favorite fighters, period, point blank. So both of those options are, to me, very good fights for Terrence Bud Crawford. And then I would expect for Terrence Bud Crawford to come out on top victoriously in a tough competitive fight against Josh Taylor. But, Josh Taylor is not acclimated to the welterweight. He's been fighting at 140. He's a big 140. But still, I think it takes time for you to make that adjustment to going up and fighting somebody that's been fighting at that for the last 5 fights or whatever. And then, Virgil Ortiz is just kind of younger, inexperienced. But at the same time, I think he's an honest-to-God threat. He might just surprise a lot of people with that youthful, explosive, that power that he has. He might sit Terrence Bud Crawford down. But I would expect Terrence Bud Crawford to win both of those fights against Ortiz or Taylor. And then I would expect for Errol Spence to come out on top in a tough fight against Yordenis Ugas. And then, possibly, we could see those two fight at the end of 2022. That would be a story. That would be a storyline that's unbelievable that I think would surpass, a lot of great fights from back in the day. But time will only tell. You know what I'm saying? What I don't want, if that shit don't happen at the end of 2022, I don't know how anybody, including myself, would be able to continue to talk about the possibilities of Errol Spence and Terrence Bud Crawford ever having a showdown. It's never going to happen if it doesn't happen next year. Unless it's going to be like Kell Brook and Amir Khan fighting now way past their prime when they both shot and washed fighters with no chins and little to no... nobody wants to see that shit from them two. Now, the UK guys really accepting this fight between Amir Khan and Kell Brook. Is sold out in like 10 minutes. But with Errol Spence and Terrence Bud Crawford, I don't want to see that shit play out like that. To me, that would be very, very unfortunate for them to, over-marinate this fight and then wait till both of these guys is doing some kind of a grudge match past their prime. But that's just my thoughts. Nocturnal thoughts. Boxing Nocturnal. I'm signing out. Salute. Peace.
Sleepy going in, lively coming out. They be wondering what we talking about.